What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Vertigrade Table. I am Ryan Doyle, and I'm very pleased to be joined by the illustrious Pittsburgh Pat.
This way or this way. On
Links
Zoom, we
where
don't know.
links
Yeah.
wherever links may be.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's always great to be sitting at the verdigris table. Ryan, I love your stuff. Been aware of you and a subscriber of your channel now for about a year, and I just love the DM preps. I love this D20 format. I'm really excited about D20 questions.
cool,
This
good,
is
good,
fun
good.
stuff. It's like a game show.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to make. I reinvented the podcast. I didn't mean to. I thought I was like, I'm going to do a cool retro game show thing. And it's a podcast, but we split it up. We have a lot of fun. We're gonna roll some dice.
Cool.
Um,
I got my dice bag here.
Sweet. So you know what? Let's start with D20 questions. Let's get to know Pat, the dungeon master,
Okay.
and player, and then we'll
Sure,
do
sure.
and then we'll do the creative side of things.
Well, I was watching a couple of your videos last night, and there were some recurring themes that came up, and one of them was the dungeon master is a player. And I
Yes.
think it even says that in the DMG, the fifth edition DMG. It even says the dungeon master is a player, right? He just facilitates some of the rules. So if you're not having fun as a dungeon master, you're doing it wrong. No, I'm just kidding. There's no way to do it wrong. But really, I mean, I want to have fun. Everybody wants to have fun. If I'm not having fun, I feel like my players aren't having fun, you know?
And you're gonna burn out. Yeah, one, absolutely. I feel if I'm having a good time, I'm more confident my players are having a good time. And I think
Mhm.
part of that is because I get enjoyment about providing joy to people. I'm not a sadist. And I feel like that holds true for most everyone. You hear some like D&D horror stories out there.
I watched that
Two,
episode that you had there. That was funny.
what's that?
The episode you had with the lady with the elf ears,
Taylor. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
with D&D horror stories on Reddit. That was pretty funny.
I have such a complicated relationship with D&D horror stories. Like I feel like they paint the hobby in a bad light. That's what like a lot of people know. But at the same time, and I
Eh,
really like what Taylor does because I mean, it's a great format for YouTube. One, she's got a video every day basically.
cool.
But two, she like unpacks it at the end. It's not just like, oh, that's look at this horrible thing. It's also like
Here's how to correct it.
here's how to correct it. Here's what, like some soft skills, human communication that you could like try to
This
implement
could have
here.
been, this all could have been prevented, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's usually the takeaway is talk to people outside of the game and don't play games with bad people. Um, but also if you're not having fun as a dungeon master, you are much more likely to burn out, and then no one's playing D&D.
Right.
You're the choke point, so you got to take care of yourself. Um,
Self-care is important in many ways in this day and age.
yeah,
That's a buzzword, but it's true.
no, it's true, and we didn't. Yeah,
All right,
take care.
let's roll some dice.
Take care of yourselves. Yeah, roll me a d20, and
All right.
we're gonna let the dice decide
Oh,
what we're talking.
11. Double one.
11. So there's no bad ones. There's definitely like a trajectory to the questions. They're like grouped. But like natural one isn't bad. Natural 20 isn't
Well,
good.
what about, see, 11 is two natural ones side by side. So that's like,
Ooh, we just learned a lot about
just kidding.
that's pessimism
My
to
play stuff.
optimism mindset. What is, we were just kind of talking about one of them for sure. What is, in your opinion, the most common player or game master mistake?
Oh, railroading for sure.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Railroading is the biggest game master mistake. I think, in my opinion, trying to tell your story and only your story and not giving the players agency to do something within the story. And the problem is it's never going to happen. You're never going to be able to predict human behavior to the point where you're going to be able to say, "Oh, I know what Bert's going to do on this." Even if I've played with Bert now for a couple months, my brain says, "Oh, I know what Bert would do in this situation," but that's 100% not true. And and I don't even know what I'm going to do. So if I'm a player, it depends on the character I'm playing, and I do go back and forth. I try not to. I try to play my characters' motivations, but sometimes I can't help it. I play my own and I meta. And so for me, that interplay between those two. So I don't know if I would call it a mistake, but something that I'm focusing on now is trying more to be in the space of my character. And so
Mm,
even though I know it's a trap, does my character know that's a trap? My character care if it's a trap? Is my character a Russian fool? Which is always fun to play, and somehow luck will take care of me and Providence will fortune favors the bold, right? That kind
hmm.
of character. Or am I one of these guys that sits back and analyzes every situation? Those characters for me aren't that fun to play because that's how I rule my life.
Right.
Overthinking and overanalysis, right? So when I'm at
Right.
the table, I'm like, go for it, like see what happens. And of course, as we talked about last week, in our post-session debriefing,
Length.
that can be deadly, right? That can be deadly in old school rules, especially.
Absolutely. I should say, so Pat and I have been doing currently we're in a Dolmenwood campaign, but we've been doing a kind of like post-session debrief. So definitely check that out. I'll provide links to that.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people haven't seen Dolmenwood, and I think it's a nice way. See, I don't know. This is the way I consume YouTube. I hear about something new or something that's new to me, and then I go seek out that information. And I love hearing people candidly talk about their experience with it.
mm,
So because there's so many game systems out there, there's so many worlds. I don't have time. I'm never going to have time to experience them all. So I need to pick and choose. So I need people to talk about it so that I can go, yeah, I might want to do that one, or oh, that sounds perfect for me. So
yeah, and I am prepping. I like to really like sink my teeth into a system setting and experience it before I pontificate on the internet with authority because I'm on a screen, So like
right,
we've
right,
gone through enough Dolmenwood now that like it's on the agenda. I think in a week or two there's a Dolmenwood video coming out. I'm going to talk, I think maybe about the old school style of play, and I think a lot of people think it's all or nothing, and like
right,
we're all old school right now, but like a lot of the things that people tend to like about how I run 5e are influences from the OSR or like some things I discovered for myself or like created for myself that I found other routes to get there in OSR. But Dolmenwood, if you haven't heard of it, don't feel bad. There's a million things out there, and it's kind of not even out yet.
right,
We're
right.
playing
It's
like
still technically a beta. Yeah,
yeah, we're playing a beta version because I backed
yeah,
the Kickstarter.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
And that's important
it's
too,
awesome.
guys. Go out and throw somebody a buck a month or something, or buy something, like show that you love them. Like these people do these creative things. I mean, Ryan's doing the compendium right now. I'm sure that's gonna be in the comments of the videos I do with you. And like, just I mean, look, you're gonna go buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks. How much you don't have any idea how jazzed people get when they see like a new guy like subscribe to their channel or like or Kickstarter. And I get it. You can't support everybody, but if you can throw a little bit that way, it means so much to people. It's amazing. That's what I'm trying to do now is make sure that I like hit people that whose content I consume and like give a little bit back.
Yeah,
So
support the things you
yeah,
like so
yeah.
that they keep coming to you.
And tell them what you like too. And that's the other
Yeah.
thing. Tell them in the comments like what do you like? And back to your original question. That's a great thing that players may or may not do is communicate with your game master. So like if you have a ranger and he has speak with animals and you love squirrels, right? Or something. And tell him that game or her and that game master is going to be happy. She is going to be happy to like throw a talking squirrel your way and incorporate that into your thing. And also the thing that you were talking about on the one video about inventory, like inspect the one dungeon master has a list of people's inventory so they can throw like a random he can like kind of like make a random object in their inventory like work for them and they'll be like, oh yeah, I do have a grappling hook,
Mm,
and like
mm.
and those kinds of tricks are awesome.
That was Lucas.
Yeah,
That's a
Lucas,
level I used to do more of that, but I think I mean YouTube is a time
it's a time
sink.
consuming thing to do.
And running multiple games, like I have shunted a lot of that. Like I will tell players, like, you have this thing, and if I need to keep some of it secret, like I'm pretty open about like, you found a magic item, here it is. Here's what it does. I'm not gonna make you go to town to identify it because I might not remember in a month, and I might confuse you with another player in a different game from a
Mm,
different system.
this is
Um,
true.
so I give players page numbers sometimes. Hey, do me a favor, write, I think I did it last Tuesday.
Yeah,
Write
yeah,
55 in parentheses next to that, and I'll
yeah.
know what that means when the time comes, when you
Beautiful.
decide you're going to eat this mushroom or whatever the thing is.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. And to speak to one of the things that you mentioned when you were talking about preparing YouTube videos and talking about things with authority because you have a platform to do so. Thank you for doing that. That one of the things I love about YouTube is anybody can post anything they want,
mhm.
but that speaks to your character and your dedication to this craft that you want to put quality content out there, and you do. So, like, just kudos for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I make
This takes more time than people think.
yes, and I make choices based. I mean, I'm not perfectly virtuous. Like I definitely I chase the algorithm or whatever sometimes. Like I make content that people
We
want
got
to
to make
see,
a living,
so
right?
they keep seeing it. So yeah, so I can keep doing this and keep the lights on in here. But I that's not my driving. That's not the most important priority. I think the YouTube channel would be a lot bigger if it was. There was a lot of us made a lot of decisions in the last year or two with the OGL and everything. And yeah, so support small things. Pat and I play at our friendly local neighborhood game shop. One, because it's awesome. Two, because you need third spaces. We talked for an hour about that on your
Yeah,
channel once.
that's right.
But like, I want that place to exist. So
LGS, man, local
I,
game store. You got to support your local game
I
store.
I go there and it's
And
maybe I
oh,
spend $7 because I have a soda or two, but like 4 hours of entertainment for $5 is very hard to beat.
and now he's gonna have a
Uh,
cafe in there too, so we'll be able to
I'm looking for it because yeah, I'd
eat
much rather be drinking
donuts and sticky buns and
yeah.
whatever they're gonna have there, which is great because I need to gain a little bit of weight.
Yeah, so support your local. Well, yeah, that too. I try really. He's got some good candy in there. I don't touch it anymore. All right, let's roll the dice again.
All right, let's roll the dice.
Give me a d20.
I got a natural one.
Natural
Oh man,
one.
I'm playing trip ones today. Awesome.
You kind of like manifested that. What aspect of running the game are you currently focused on or have room to improve? What's the
Oh,
weak link
sure.
in the chain?
Okay, so kind of a two-part question. So I would say, oh, what's the weak link in the chain? Yeah, for me, it's exploration.
Oh,
That's why the Dolmenwood adventure that you're running is so good for me because I think I'm really good at social encounters. I think I'm fairly good at keeping a table of 6 players entertained while they're in combat, keeping the rounds moving and giving them something fun to punch, or shoot their little arrows at. That comes from being an adventure league DM,
hmm,
where basically I may be entertaining somebody for the first time. I may be giving them their first experience. So it's Dungeons and Dragons. I'm good at the dragons part. I need to be better at the dungeons part. I need to be better at the map drawing, the exploration, and letting people discover things. The other thing that I'm working on, and I think is one of the can be problematic, is puzzles. I
hmm,
really like puzzles as a player, but puzzles have to be, um, you can't be too easy, it can't be too hard. I mean, maybe I'm too hard on myself with that. Maybe they can be too easy. Maybe it's just like it makes people feel brilliant if they do it. If it's too hard, then I can make a mechanic where if the players themselves don't know the answer to the riddle or the puzzle, they can make a check to make their characters succeed. But that's the back door. That's the way out. I want to
yeah.
make balanced puzzles, and I know that there are resources for that. I need to investigate that more.
My buddy Wally DM is like the puzzle guy, so worth checking out. He's also just a good dude.
I'm gonna
But
write him down.
yeah, Wally DM's good people, YouTube channel. And I forget off the top of my head the name of the book, but he has a book of puzzles.
I'll contact him today.
I think exploration is a lot of people's weakest link because it's the least supported. I mean, the
It's really not in 5e
no, and
much.
the concept is there's three pillars of play, right? There's three legs to this stool. It's combat, it's social, and it's exploration. And here is 150 pages of rules about combat, and here's 3 pages about social, and here's some suggestions in the DMG about how maybe exploration could work if you make up a bunch of rules for it. It's not really in there, and it's my
Right.
favorite part. I like creating an open world feeling, not only a sandbox where there's different solutions to a puzzle or problems, but also like I want my player to feel like if they turn around and walk in the other direction from like the breadcrumbs I put in front of them, it might be a little less of a cohesive story, but like, yeah, there's you can climb to the top of this mountain and see what's on the other side. And like there's it'll populate. There's stuff there. There kick over a rock and there's adventure and content and so much of my like early like all the stuff I'd put on the DM's Guild was like exploration based. Let's make this environment interesting. And part of that, I'm a hiker, like outside's cool and fun. And I think a lot of us spend too much time inside and our imaginations aren't primed to think about what does an adventure look like in the forest versus like a room. Like for me, there's so much more potential outside.
Sure. Well, think about Weathertop in
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings. Think
yeah.
about there's those not random, but I mean, we would call them random encounters in D&D of, with the ring wraiths. That builds tension to the story. You have a recurring threat. You have to think about where you're going to camp. Are you going to defend the camp? Are you going to post a guard? Does somebody like fall asleep? Et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
And I was just having a conversation about Rangers and like the new updates and what do we think. And my criticism, I guess, of the Ranger isn't about how they built the Ranger or what they did to Hunter's Mark or what like it or not. There's no room for the Ranger to live out their class fantasy
Mm,
in 5e, and without fundamental changes to how fifth edition runs, it's hard to play. Like Aragorn, you get half of it, and they talked about it as if like this is a good Gish, and like okay, cool, that's fine, but that's not what a ranger is in my. That's part of what a ranger is. He's
mm,
got a bow and arrow and maybe like some like nature magic a little bit, but it's not just like a, a cleric. Cleric is to paladin as druid is to ranger in 5e. It's
mhm.
just like little, almost like multi-classy thing because no one's navigating, no one's worried about, no one's tracking rations, no one's getting lost in the wilderness. Like
Mhm.
you are at my table, but like I made up all that shit for myself, and now
Right,
Dolmenwood, it's built in.
right.
But yeah, I wouldn't. I will. I mean, hopefully, I am helping you with the exploration side of things,
Oh
but I
yeah. Oh,
I
I've
wouldn't take
learned
that
so much.
personally.
I've
Yeah,
learned so much.
yeah,
Another thing I learned from you is the clock. So like we were doing that one scenario with the golden goose that was stolen and the giant, and I saw you write a circle with a cross in the middle, and then you would fill in as the time was ticking down. We had 12 strikes of the bell in order to before this house became animated and this haunted house and so I saw you doing the countdown thing and I am definitely stealing that tactic. That's a
yeah.
wonderful DM tactic.
So that's two. So the Waking of Willoughby Hall is the adventure you're talking about, which I ran 2 nights in a row and were like dramatically different experiences for me and for the players, and it was like and both were great. Like highly recommend. That is a project by Ben Milton of Questing Beasts. Check it out. What I drew, and I don't use a DM screen, and maybe I should start because they're looking at my notes, guys. I didn't realize. But what I'm drawing on my piece of paper there is a clock from Blades in the Dark, which is on this shelf, but kind of out of focus.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I saw it from Scum and Villainy, but it is a Blades in the Dark mechanic.
well,
That's right.
yeah, exactly. Scum
Scum
and
and
Villainies.
Villainy comes out of Blades in the Dark,
Yep.
right?
And that's
Which
great. I
I
do that
really want to
a
try next.
lot.
That's the next one I want to try. Scum and
I
Villainy.
would love to play Blades. I've read through it and listened to some actual plays, but I've never actually sat down and done. And like I like, there's a lot of cool concepts. Even if you are not interested in, it's a steampunky a
Yeah,
little bit, and it's
it's a
very
little bit of
crime
a
based. You're all rogues,
mm,
right?
yeah, everybody's a rogue, yeah.
It's a very
Like
particular flavor, but you can learn a lot even if you're running vanilla D&D medieval fantasy. Like there's a lot of cool stuff in Blades in the
yeah.
Dark that anyone can extract. A lot of cool ideas in there, but clocks are a big one. And I do use those a lot, and it comes back to the exploration side of things, right? Random encounters means there's a chance they can happen or not. It doesn't, a random encounter is not necessarily an irrelevant encounter, right? The giant moves and hits the side of the house with his holy bell that he ripped off the church steeple. There's consequences to that. It's not just like some random happenstance. Like that's the core of the adventure. The random part is, does it happen or not? And where does he go or not? The dice are determining things and the stories emerging from that. Um, but it
But if you
matters.
just happen to be standing in the room next to the wall where the bell comes crashing through, you're going to take some damage.
Game over. 66 and you got 4 hit points. It's over.
Right on, right on.
All right, roll another d20 for me.
7,
7.
lucky 7.
Oh, we didn't do so on the puzzle side of things too.
Yeah.
I I think it's player preference if I want to like do like a highlights magazine style puzzle or something. But I've fairly recently like kind of broadened my understanding of like what is a puzzle in D&D, right? It's
Okay.
just like it's an open-ended question.
What is a puzzle?
What is so like a trap is a puzzle. A good trap is a puzzle.
Mm.
It's not like a
Like,
resource tax. It's not like
it's not gotcha.
right.
It's you have a chance to solve this.
Right. Exactly. A good trap is a puzzle. A locked door is a puzzle. A puzzle is a puzzle, right? Like how there's a sphinx with a riddle, or there's 2 plates and 7 balls, and how do you what like
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool things, but sometimes
Ship to ship combat. We were doing that in our Spelljammer campaign
uh,
last week. That could be a puzzle because you're trying to figure out how to present minimal facing and put maybe a ship between you and the other ships if there's more than one enemy. Put an asteroid in between you, something to, you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. So that could be a puzzle.
that's interesting. Yeah. And speaking of, I mean, we're a few hours out now, but it was Kraken week until a couple hours
I
ago.
didn't do any Kraken videos until the last 2 days, but that's okay.
Well,
They're up for
it's
next
coming
year.
around next year, man. I mean, hopefully, thank you, Jenny D and Antonio from Pointy Hat for making that happen.
Oh yeah.
And I think it's gonna take on a life of its own now. I mean, they did a lot of organizational administration work and herded 100 YouTuber D&D cats. But yeah, now Kraken Week's gonna be a national holiday. Let's go.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, last night I told my wife a bunch of Kraken jokes. So
nice.
they're out there.
Oh God, so many puns. But there's a lot of puns left on the table. I was actually expecting more. I didn't watch the entire playlist, I'll be honest. There's 1,000 hours of Kraken content that we pumped out this week,
It'd be
last week.
impossible.
All
Roll
right.
again.
Other sources of inspiration for TTRPGs. So not necessarily something like Blades in the Dark, like another system, but like, you know, other media, outside content.
Yeah, I mean, Lord of the Rings is the obvious one.
Hmm.
You know, that's you go to that and that's the big one. Star Wars, of course. I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Mhm.
Yeah, Star Wars shirt on. The it really it's funny. It comes from the detective shows my mom watches. It comes from you know, you get ideas like, oh, okay, they could find something on a corpse, you know, they could find a clue. Agatha Christie.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, it's what do I immerse myself in, right? Um, I'm gonna see it. It's what do you call it? They call it Baader-Meinhof syndrome, right? Or Baader-Meinhof as soon as somebody says Baader-Meinhof, you hear the words Baader-Meinhof everywhere, right? Nobody ever says it, but all of a sudden it's in your circle of awareness. So if I'm thinking about DMing my next session, I'm looking, you know, whether I'm actively or my subconscious is looking and picking things up. But if you want specific intellectual properties, I there are some that I guess I have some blank spots. So like I don't know much about the Marvel universe, the Marvel superhero universe.
Hmm.
Everybody seems to know about that. I keep trying to watch it in order and I never get past like Iron Man 2. So and I like it. It's overwhelming because it seems like there's so much for me to catch up on. I have been watching some anime lately, so I've taken a couple things from like I don't know, it all bleeds together for me, the anime stuff. But I'm a big Cowboy Bebop fan.
I was about
So
to, it's a popular answer, right? And it's a certain age man is going to be like Cowboy Bebop is my shit because that's what I watched,
well, I'll be at Techco, I'll dress up as Spike Spiegel. That's my go-to costume.
Nice.
And
Okay.
yeah, I like wearing the crazy green hair and, because I like having hair again. And then,
Right.
and then and people recognize it, they do, they recognize it. I get to wear a suit, I get to wear a jacket. And like, I like having stuff in my pockets at cons because I can put
I'm
my
not.
cameras in there and stuff.
I'm not sure if it was if it was the Futurama episode with the dog or it was Cowboy Bebop. I think it was Cowboy Bebop was the first time I realized that a cartoon could make me cry. And like
Oh, that
Fry's
was terrible with the dog.
Fry's dog was a sucker
Precious.
punch for sure. Cowboy Bebop was like we're doing like it was high drama occasionally and like you knew it was coming. The Fry's dog one was like a real sucker punch. But man, Cowboy Bebop, if you haven't seen it, there's 2 seasons. They cover there's a lot of those like anime tropes in there, but it's very, I mean, it's very
Yeah, and we're talking
westernized.
about the original 1998 Sunrise cartoon. We're not talking
Oh,
about the Netflix adaptation, which I actually enjoyed some of. But no, if you're watching it for the first time, just go watch the anime.
it's beautiful storytelling, character arcs, like ooh,
The
so good.
music is amazing.
Oh
The
God, yeah.
soundtrack is unbelievable. It's
The
just some of
seatbelts,
the best jazz that you'll hear. Yoko Kano, she's like incredible. And
yes.
I've actually heard she's come to the United States before. I hope
Oh,
maybe she will come again. But yes,
Jupiter Jazz, man.
Jupiter Jazz.
I had that on repeat for years of my life. That was on the
Eh,
soundtrack.
Yeah, the thing that if we want to extract something back to the question
Mm,
about what you can use from that. So in Cowboy Bebop, there are these three characters. I don't think they're ever named. They end up recurring. So like they'll sit at a table and they're having lunch outside, like this kind of Tijuana-esque town,
mhm.
and they're talking amongst themselves about nonsense, nothing related to the story at all. And then much later, there's like this bounty hunter or something that's coming after the group, and they waylay him accidentally, or they make fun of him while he waylays himself. He eats his ice cream too fast and gets a brain freeze, and then they say, "I told you, young'un, you can't eat that. They're too fast," and they have the old man trope kind of accent, and it's I learned quickly to take NPCs and make them recurring
Mhm.
because because player characters love that. I was teaching D&D to kids last summer, and one kid drew a dungeon, and he had a spider that was in a box. You open a box up, and he wanted to make it creepy, so there was a coin, there was a dagger, there was a spider. And I said, "Oh, what's the name of the spider?" And he was like, Jimmy." And then all of a sudden, Jimmy started popping up at different places in the dungeon. And by the end, Jimmy had been roasted by the big bad guy. And so all of us player characters were like, "For Jimmy," and so it became a focus where it would have been a throwaway detail otherwise.
Yes.
And so even this year, the same kid was in my D&D camp this year, and we talked about Jimmy to the other guys, and I'm trying to teach them like this is storytelling. Our brains like when we tell a joke, why do we always tell jokes in threes, right?
Mm.
One is the introduction, two is the repetition. Our brains like repetition. And so when we break the repetition, because we're expecting it to be repeated a third time and we break it for some reason, which nobody really knows why, um, that's funny to us. We find that as interesting. So do that, right? Play to human psychology, right?
Mhm.
Use your tools, wherever you come from. If you were a sociology major, if you're a writing major, I happen to be a writing major and a political science major. So I like having that interpersonal politics and that real world, like I like having like intrigue, court intrigue in my
Mhm.
games. I think that's hard to do. I don't know people that do it well. I think it's fun. And I don't know that I get it all right all the time, but I love introducing it and seeing if people bite. It's yeah, I think I'm rambling. So,
Well, that's kind of this is
the point.
a vehicle for rambling.
Okay.
Roll a d20. That's the construct that keeps us on some sort of
17.
17.
All ones and sevens. Interesting.
Ba-na-na-na. What is your favorite thing that happens at the table? What's the your favorite part of all this? Where's the juice for you?
Laughter.
Hmm.
absolutely laughter. There was a I was a player at a table for Adventure League, and there was a 10-year-old girl who was playing a bard, and she cast vicious mockery. And I said, "Cool. What's the mockery? Like, what's the, you know?" Oh no, it was Tasha's hideous laughter.
Yeah.
And I said, "What's the joke?" And so she said, and I used it in my Kraken video last night, the punchline. She said, how do you make a, I think she said octopus or a squid, but how do you make a Kraken laugh? 10 tickles.
Mm,
And it was so stupid that
hmm
we all cracked up laughing, and she's playing it as her bard, in her bard voice, to like, and then the big bad guy has to fall prone,
hmm
and take psychic damage. And those moments are just for me, those are the priceless moments. But the other one is the aha moment. So like I have taught new players and like sat next to them as they're playing at the table and given them the character sheet. And as we go, say, okay, no, look at that. Now add 3 to that. Now roll the dice. Add 3. Did it. And this is the math. And that moment. So like I was teaching 4. No, it was 5. It was 5 people. It was 2 couples and another guy. And the wife had bought her husband this session at Game Masters for his birthday. They always wanted, they were in their late 30s, some of them in their early 40s, never played D&D before. And that aha moment where like they're in character
mm.
and they're like, well, I would do this, but my guy's not too smart. So he's going to jump off of this tower and try to land on that apple cart, and it's like, yes,
Mm,
yes, you guys are playing. You're
mm.
not thinking anymore. You're playing. And
Yes.
it's wonderful to see grown-ups at play.
That that was a great answer. Both of those answers were great, and I feel like they're connected. They're the same answer. Like, yeah, the joy, like it's a game, and we are playing it, and maybe because there's math involved sometimes, or like I don't know what, like people lose sight of that sometimes. But you basically there's no winning when you can't lose, right? Like your character is disposable, however much you love them. Character concepts are fun to create. You can make a new one. We are about to
Yeah,
in a
there's
second.
always, and in like nobody dies in Star Wars. There's always Force ghosts, right? So
Right, right.
you
There's
might
and
make an
yeah,
appearance, or you can have a flashback episode. There's always,
yes. There's so many ways around it in D&D. Um, but yeah, I love bringing new people into the game, even though like I love having experienced players around the table because like things hum and you can take it to like new levels too.
yeah,
But like,
yeah,
ooh, I love the lights coming on when they're a little intimidated at first. There's this complex. The character sheet's got all sorts of stuff on it. I don't quite comprehend that. There's like all these weird polyhedral dice with numbers on it, and it's like, whoop, that's all secondary. No one's gonna yell at you because you don't know the difference between your charisma and your persuasion. What would your character do? That's it. Like, and
yeah.
the
That's right. And the other
immersion
thing is
begins.
everybody's willing to help. So like,
Hmm.
don't be intimidated by going into a session with a bunch of players that have played this game, because the thrill of asking, it's when you ask for help. This is something I had to learn, when in my late 40s. So when you ask for help, you provide somebody the opportunity to feel good about themselves by being able to help you.
Yeah,
That is like,
yeah.
why I always thought I had to do everything by myself, but on my own with no reliance on anybody. No, just jump in. And
Hmm.
then now the only time they're ever gonna maybe be a little bit impatient is if you've got 6 people at the table, and you're a wizard, and you don't have a spell ready by the time it gets back to you. Come on, read your spells. But like
Yes.
that's an old that's kind of an old joke.
Well,
That's an old
yeah.
trope.
I love these conversations because you're an educator in a bunch of different ways. But like very recently, we like talked through something and you kind of like formalized the thing that I've done before, and I'm sure like we didn't invent anything, but you were talking about somebody came, well, actually came to Game Masters looking to learn how to play D&D, and D, and you're a resource there. You don't work there, but like you are a staple in the community. Um, and you're known for educating people, bringing in new players. And you went back and forth for a while, like, okay, I'm gonna set up a game and bring this person in, and you kind of came to the conclusion, I'm gonna ride like shotgun to their
Mm.
character. Like I'm gonna be a player, and I'm gonna almost be like almost like a sidekick kind of a character. Like I'll run something simple and I'll help them run at the table, and that takes the pressure off the DM. Um, and
Yeah,
that
you
I think
you
just like
be
formalizing that thought.
yeah, you be Dr. Frankenstein and I'll be Igor. I'll be the comic relief, or like, you be Don Quixote, I'll be Sancho Panza, like
Mhm.
we can be a team that we can make a backstory for why we're on each other's elbow here, but like, yeah, absolutely. And that's the other thing. Back to like one of the original questions when you talked about player mistakes.
Mm.
One of the things that happens at tables is especially if you have a lot of players. And if you have players that really like the game, they get very enthusiastic, but sometimes they want to do everything.
Mm.
And it's like, let the rogue, right? So like, you're a paladin. Don't pick the lock. You know what I mean? Like, just take a second, you'll get your chance. Don't worry. You'll be the one that like does the aggro and like, at the end and like, the big baddie comes at you first and you get to like, praise your deity and rush into battle. That'll be your moment. Let everybody have a moment,
Mm.
This is a heroes game, especially 5e. Like let everybody have their moment. So like give room for everyone to play. And I think as a DM, one of your duties is to, I said duty, is to channel that energy and to make sure that the quiet person in the corner who's playing the monk hermit gets a chance to come out of the shadows once in a while and make a pivotal move.
Yes, yes. I will say I don't. It is the DM's the DM is controlling the spotlight to a large degree. However, players share the spotlight, right? Like if you've never made a support caster, right? Like or support character, right? Doesn't it in fifth edition like a caster is the easier way to do it, but like you could have easily taken that person and been like, here's a sidekick. You're going to be my squire. I'm the star of the show, right? And like, you're my little brother. You're just tagging along. And here, roll this one because you're doing this now. But like reversing that and like, hey, I'm shoving you in the spotlight and helping you take it. And I'm going to be either the straight man or the color commentary comedic relief. Like, that's such a fun position to play if you haven't yet, right? Like, some of your favorite characters are supporting
Be a
cast.
bard. Be
Be
a
a bard.
bard.
Be a
Yeah, just
bard.
just be like, here's bardic inspiration. It's like, go get him, tiger.
Yes.
Like
So good.
push him towards the enemy.
Bards get
You
such a
can do
bad
it.
rap because of the meme of like flirting with dragons or whatever, but like,
Right.
yeah, you bards are great. And
Mhm.
now you're involved in more aspects of play. When you're a supporting character, the rogue's gonna pick a lock, you're gonna help them pick the lock.
Well, think of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, the movie,
Mm,
right?
mm,
Think of that character. He's a bard,
mhm.
right? The main character is a bard, and think about what he does. He lets the barbarian just rage, right? Don't take her potatoes. I'm telling you, don't take her potatoes. She likes potatoes. Like you can be the comic relief. You can explain. You can enhance everyone else's experience. And that's kind of a fun thing to do after a while. I mean, yeah, it's fun to be like, Superman and just go destroy everything. That's fun for a while.
For a little while, yeah.
And then you want a little more nuance to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
all
because
right.
it's like, did you see that I got a 65? And then next session, it's like, I got 67. And like that wears down more quickly for me than like, what a crazy moment. I slipped on a banana peel. Right. I'm gonna remember that. I'm not gonna remember big
Yes,
number. I'm gonna remember like the crazy moments.
I love
Um,
the failures. All right,
yeah.
should we roll again?
Sure, let's roll one more. Let's
One
roll
more,
one
14,
more. 14.
which is two sevens.
Just two sevens.
They're all
Numerology,
no,
baby.
they're all related.
Maybe kind of asked and answered actually a little bit, but what is your take on the sandbox railroad spectrum.
Yeah, it's a sandbox on a railroad.
Mm.
Obviously I got to narrow it down. If we're playing in a cyberpunk, if we're playing like Eberron, and we're playing in like we're playing Eberron rules. Like, I mean, that's what's there, right? Can I introduce other elements from other systems? Yeah. Can people go crazy off the rails within reason? Uh, it can lead to chaos though. So like, back to a teaching moment from last year when I was teaching the kids at the camp, they wanted to find a futuristic weapon. They wanted a pew pew. They wanted a laser gun, and I'm like, well, okay. So we were playing in a modern world setting, and they were at a get go, and they wanted to find a pew pew, and so I said, okay, we'll roll for it. They rolled, of course, they always roll natural 20 whenever you say roll for it, and then so I said, okay, well, the cashier has one behind the counter, uh, for self defense. So the explanation, the backstory is he's from the future. He's a time traveler. I mean, just we just went way way off the rails with it. But yeah, I've done it. So like, and I've done it intentionally sometimes. So like, I was running from Horde of the Dragon Queen. The first adventure is called Greenest in Flames, and and I was this was 2022 or maybe 23. I was just got the Spelljammer book,
Huh.
and I was in a campaign where somebody introduced two Thrycreen NPCs, and they're technically forgotten realms. So like, that flies. You can do that. So every time they would find like a dead kobold or something, I would have like a group, they would either dispatch them themselves or they would find their bodies. Sometimes a body would disappear, be dragged into like the underbrush, and they would hear these clicking noises. And then they would go in the bushes and find like nothing there. And there was this subplot that was going on. They never figured out, but it was going to carry over another session of like Thrycreen, like taking the bodies for nefarious, who knows what purpose, right? But I just wanted to add another mystery element to it. So the sandbox got bigger. But that was me having fun too.
Right.
Um, is that railroading? I don't know. It's providing opportunities for other things to happen, I
No, I
guess.
think that's fundamentally sandboxing, right? Just like
A sandbox.
here's more toys in this
Yeah.
sandbox.
Throw
And
more
it's a
toys.
box. I mean, yeah, there's a frame around it, right? There's only so much.
Yeah, we can only prepare so much.
Yeah,
But
there's
it
only so much sand. If we don't keep it together, it's just gonna dissipate.
but the more you do this, so if you're a new DM or if you're a new player, the more you do this, the more arrows in your quiver. So you will have these go-to events. For instance, Greenest in Flames, I've run at least a dozen times, probably more. So now that's in my backpack, right? So every time I come into Game Masters, even if I'm coming to play chess and somebody says, we need another DM, or something, or whatever, or if I'm coming to Adventure League and I'm coming to be a player and they got too many players and they need a DM, I got this,
Hmm.
right? I can pull
Hmm.
this out because I've done it before. And so my advice, run sessions, just run. And then run them multiple times like you did with the Willoughby Hall, run them back to back because now Willoughby Hall is cemented in your brain. You've got aspects, you know the techniques, you know the timing, like what the voice of the giant sounds like, all that stuff. You don't have to make up that stuff. Now you can make up more stuff. So it just builds,
Hmm.
right? So,
Yeah, and it's a story engine, not a story, right? It's not beginning, middle, end. Oh, I know how this one ends. This is going to be a boring thing. Like it's actually fascinating to see how it's different and how it's the same and how it's different each time you revisit it. And okay, like I reread The Great Gatsby every couple of years and take different things from it, but like the words on the page don't change. But
no, you change.
I change. In D&D, it's not you're not reading a novel. You're creating a story live at the table collaboratively with the other people and the dice. So if you've never, like, a lot of people chase novelty, if you've never rerun like a one shot, do it because it's so fascinating to see it play out differently. And like, yeah, you do a couple reps on a, 3-4 hour session of 5 to 10 room dungeon, like, boop, you can now drop that anywhere and run it on a night that you did zero prep. Now that prep
Right.
stays with you. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. We are going to take a short break.
Cool.
People on the internets. I will see you next time. We're going to roll on the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. Pat, tell the fine folks out there where they can find you.
Oh, I'm like YouTube, Pittsburgh Pat on YouTube. If you go there, I have other channels, that sub channels, kind of, I guess you call it. So I have D&D specific channel, just called D&D One Shots. And but yeah, you can find all my geek life stuff. I do D&D, Star Wars. Like tonight, I'm playing the um, Shadows of the Galaxy trading card, Star Wars trading card game, Star Wars Unlimited. That's a special event at Game Masters tonight. I'll be there, so there'll be a lot of content about that. Yeah, I haven't been able to drill down yet, focus, but hey, it's like it's a blog, but all are welcome. I hope to see you there. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Be kind, have fun, and we will see you next time.